TikTok is turning on Lieutenant Dan because of what he's doing right now. So let me introduce you to this guy, Tampa Terrance. He's the guy who basically made Lieutenant Dan. Think of him as the Hawk Tuah interview guy, and Dan is Hawk Tuah girl. Now let's talk about this guy, Check the Star. Think of him as Mr. Based and Dan as World of T-Shirts. Because after Terrance made Dan famous, this guy came in and essentially tried to take advantage of Dan's new fame. Now after hanging out with Check the Star for a while, Dan started to turn on Terrance, and he has started to accuse Terrance of trying to take everything from his GoFundMe. If you don't know, Terrance made Dan a GoFundMe and got over 40K, and Dan was completely cool with this, trusting Terrance and everything, until he started hanging out with Check the Star. After hanging out with Check the Star, he basically completely turned on Terrance, and Dan also appears to have started some kind of substance or something, because ever since he met Check the Star, Dan has seemed like he's been on something. Many people watching Dan also notice this change. And speaking of change, the way that Dan has changed has everyone wanting their change back, as many people are now saying they want a refund for the support they gave Dan on his GoFundMe. Now, according to Terrance, the reason he hasn't given Dan all of his funds is because Dan has some issues with his bank account and he can't receive them yet. But Terrance is actively trying to work and help Dan get that fixed, and in the meantime, he is giving Dan 7K while everything gets sorted out.